Welcome back to the second day of the 7th Annual Asia Pacific Public Electronic Procurement Network Conference. My name is Roger Osorio, and I will be your Master of Ceremonies for the day. I'm an executive coach, speaker, author, and Ivy League instructor. I'm based in New York City and have previously supported events for the World Bank, the Inter-American Development Bank, and many others. All of us at the ADB are excited to be here virtually with all of you who are tuning in from over 20 different time zones to be with us. For those of you joining us for the first time, we'd like to share a few suggestions and guidelines to ensure that we deliver maximum value in return for your time invested. First of all, this is the second day of a 3-day event. Each day, we're going to be hosting 3 sessions. All of the times listed on the agenda are in Manila local time. Second, we ask that everyone please change their Zoom names to their first name, last name, followed by your company or affiliation. This way, our speakers and moderators will know how to address you when you submit questions or comments in the chat. During our presentations, everyone's audio is going to be on mute, so don't worry about your audio coming through or your sound coming through. And this is, of course, in order to avoid distraction and audio feedback. You will, however, be able to interact with our speakers and moderators by clicking on the Q&A button that is going to be found at the bottom of your screen, and you can submit your questions there. Please ask your questions at any point during the presentation, and we will do our best to address them all. Finally, we're going to be having polls both during, after, before sessions, and so we ask for your full participation so that our moderators and speakers can tailor their content and presentation to your needs as much as possible. So with this guidance in mind, we are confident that you're going to enjoy a seamless, interactive, insightful, and value-added conference. So let's start with our first poll of the day. Please take a moment to consider the following question that you should see popping up on your screen momentarily. All right, and there it is. So think about, your own experience, reflecting on your own experience. What stops you from improving your use of e-government procurement systems? And please choose all answers that apply. Perhaps focus on the top 1 or 2 reasons that really lead to this. Again, what are some of those issues that are preventing you, slowing you down, or stopping you from improving your use of e-procurement systems? Again, thinking about perhaps the leading 1, 2, maybe 3 top reasons, but I think focusing on those 2 or top 3 reasons will help us see which ones rise to the top. So far, it looks like we have a couple that are rising to the top. One is unsuitable IT equipment used by agencies or suppliers. So I see that one coming to the top quite a bit. Another one is unreliable internet connection. Of course, this could definitely be an issue to implementing any e-system or any electronic or internet-based system. Let's see here. We have a couple of other close ones that are coming up. Lack of training or instructions for suppliers. That's another one that we see coming through here. Not enough suppliers registered on the system. There we go. So participation by all of the different players and stakeholders. A very important situation there, or problem that could hold you back. Let's see here, as more answers come in, we're almost at 60% participation. We continue to see that the unreliable internet connections, unsuitable IT equipment are 2 of the leading reasons, as are
recording in progress,
lack of training or instructions for suppliers. All right, I think we're just about done with the survey. It looks like we have almost everyone participated. So there we go. So you can see the results here. There's a few that lead the way. Like I said, the unreliable internet connections, the unsuitable IT equipment, and lastly, lack of training. So these are some of those issues. So as you listen to the different sessions and you learn about our speakers and our presenters, also as you connect with each other, because today we're going to be connecting with each other in a networking event, and we'll tell you more about that shortly. But you will have the opportunity to find partners, find collaborators, find supporters, people who can help you with some of these issues. So we do look forward to you finding people you can connect with after the event. All right. So thank you again for your participation in our very first poll. And it is now my great pleasure to introduce our first session of the day. This session is entitled Developing Blockchain Technology for E-Procurement. So in this critical session, we are honored to have Dr. Ram Somasundaram leading a relevant and insightful conversation about developing this blockchain technology for e-procurement. Remember to take good notes on the ideas that you hear today. Listen to those great ideas. The key to successful participation in any conference or learning experience is finding those 1 or 2 ideas that can help you right away. All right. So as I said before, leading the session is going to be Dr. Ram Somansundaram. He is an EGP consultant at the ADB. Ram has researched the diffusion of e-government procurement for his doctoral thesis work and has 15 years of experience in design, implementation, and evaluation of EGP systems. He has actively worked in design, development, implementation, and assessment of EGP systems in multiple countries in Asia and Africa. Ram has worked as an international EGP consultant for the World Bank and the Asian Development Bank. Further, he is keen to apply emerging technologies such as blockchain, machine learning, and artificial intelligence for the development of a global EGP system architecture. Joining Ram, we have Saurabh Bhattacharya, Executive Director at the Center for Smart Governance for the Government of Karnataka. Saurabh specializes in the architecting of technical solutions. Specifically, he has developed key architectural considerations and policy imperatives for the use and promotion of blockchain by governments. Over an 18-year career, he has designed production-grade blockchain systems for enterprise-level financial management systems. He converges domain understanding with his technical expertise to deliver effective solutions for his clients. Saurabh has significant international experience, having worked with the World Bank and other similar multilateral agencies in their projects across various developing countries. Saurabh has worked internationally in the African region, Caribbean countries in Latin America, Southeast Asia, Bhutan, Bangladesh, and South Asia, and the Middle East in various technical consulting roles spanning from policy formation to system design. I will now hand it over to Ram to begin this important discussion.
Hello, everyone. I hope I am audible.
You are.
Yes.
We hear you.
Okay. That's good. So I'm very delighted to be able to be a moderator for this session. In fact, yesterday I was attending the event and I found very interesting discussions. What I realized yesterday was that the EGP domain, I have been in this domain for like 15 years now. Okay, so and the EGP domain has become more vibrant, and there are like subdomains are getting created now, like specialized subdomains. Like for example, data analytics. That's becoming a very important area, and need for standardization. I think that was highlighted, and open contracting that is coming up, and sustainable procurement. That's something which is like very rather new area which is coming up. So all of this are getting intertwined, and it's quite interesting the way it is shaping up. The subject is becoming more and more robust, and I'm very delighted to be a part of this. So now the question is like, what is our session about? The present session. So what are we explaining, and how does that fit into the larger picture? Okay. See, right now the challenge that we are seeing is that, incidentally, that was my thesis work, that was my PhD research subject, is that there are multiple EGP systems, okay? So often within a country, okay? And I am a strong proponent of a single unified EGP system. I always say that there should be one system for a country, but with experience, I am now increasingly realizing that that's often not possible. So we may have to agree that multiple EGP systems are a reality. Definitely across systems, they are definitely necessary. And if you look at Central Asian countries, so each country will have its own EGP system, and it could well be that within a small country with a, let's say, 5 million people population, there could be multiple EGP systems. Now, the challenge here is when you have multiple EGP systems, the kind of data analytics which was discussed yesterday, for us to do it, we need to be able to consolidate this data. Okay, so we will have vendors registering in one system and another system. So we're going to be able to correlate these vendors. Okay, so this is the problem, and especially in Central Asian setup or countries where cross-border trade is quite significant. You will need a provision to sort of understand for the EGP system to talk to another EGP system in a different country. Okay, so this is the need of the hour, and I have worked with the ADB and the World Bank, and always international ICB procurement. They talk about how do we find out whether the work experience of a vendor is actually authentic. So these are the areas, the problems which we are facing, and these are genuine problems. Okay, so we thought the new blockchain technology has come up, and let us see what needs to be done about this. So there was about 3 years back, ADB under, I think, the same project like this one, where this conference is being funded. So actually funded a research on blockchain, and a paper was written in collaboration with the World Bank representative. And so this paper, it's been 3 years. You can call it as a short time, or you can call it as 3 years is too long. But still, the Karnataka government has taken the initiative, and they have initiated operationalizing this idea. Okay, so this is Saurav. He is going to present about the current status of the project and the key learnings from the project. So I hand it over to Saurav. Saurav, please go ahead.
Thank you, Ram. Thanks. I hope I'm audible and visible as well also to all of you.
Yes.
I hope my screen is also visible.
Yes, Saurav.
Okay, thank you. Just to give you a little contextual understanding, I represent the organization called Center for Smart Governance, which is based out of Bangalore, the IT capital of India, and we primarily focus on governance and public sector related issues. And on a lighter note, as we say that we don't just impact the corporate balance sheets, top line or bottom line, we impact lives. And that's the reason our focus has been primarily on governance and the public sector. Now, talking about this subject, the reason we started working on this, in fact, Ram had written a paper some time back, and he came to us and we met him. We discussed this issue because we were facing some serious issues when we were trying to work on the EGP system. Karnataka is a state in India. It's a province in India which was one of the pioneering states, an early adopter of EGP system somewhere around 2006 and 7 when it was adopted. Now we have almost been able to make 100% of our procurements happen through the electronic procurement portal which we have, and our model was also found to be very suitable by multiple countries, multiple governments, and was adopted by them. And just to tell you about our model, we digitized almost every aspect of procurement up to the level of award of contract. So we started with the entire vendor registration, your public procuring entity registration, creation of tender document or a procurement notice in the system, thereafter submission of bid and the bid processing, and then award of contract. Almost the entire thing was completely digitized without any paper getting exchanged in any form in between. That's the level of automation we had achieved somewhere around 2007 by that time. But what we faced after that was an increasing realization that it's not about just getting a digital data. It's also about creating trust around it. How do I validate that data? By procuring entities were spending tons of hours trying to validate the data. They would convert that into from a digital form to a materialized form. Then they will scan through the documents. They will visit entities to validate. It was a costly exercise, time-consuming exercise, and was one serious bottleneck which we saw in the procurement process. There were other bottlenecks also. There were other improvements which we have identified, and we are, as we speak, are in the process of rolling out multi-phased improvements in this system. And maybe by early next year, we will have a new modern EGP system in use in the state of Karnataka. But this was the issue of authenticating and bringing trust to the transaction was something which we were quite bothered about, and we're trying to evaluate various options to solve that. And that's where we chanced upon a conversation with Ram, and where we started working on this idea how blockchain can help us solve this issue. So let me take you to the sections where I would like to explain. I will take some time to brief you about the problem statement we tried to address here through this solution. If you look at it, the whole purpose why we wanted the vendor credentials network, what we are calling it now, to come up was because at all the three core levels, three stakeholder levels, we saw a single problem creating multiple impacts. When it comes to vendor, how do we validate whether a vendor proposes a credential, whether that credential is really a genuine credential or a fake credential? How do we validate that? That was a question which was bothering procuring entities. From the vendor point of view, if you look at it, for them to justify or to validate their credential, it was a large, humongous task, because they had to visit different entities who had given them work in the past, identify those credentials, get that validated from them, then in a materialized form, and then dematerialize it by scanning and uploading it into the system. In spite of that, there was always a chance for the procuring entities to find that there was still some loophole, there was still some shortfalls which had to be plugged in, because some of these credentials, in spite of being manually signed, validated, stamped by some of the procuring entities, had certain lacunas that sometimes ended up being fake also. But that was something which was a big problem which we were trying to solve. For the EGP systems now, the challenge was that for them to provide a platform for both the vendor and procuring entities to collaborate and validate the credential, they had to manage a voluminous amount of unstructured data. So you scan, you upload, a vendor scan, identifies, scans, uploads his credentials, the procuring entities download those credentials. EGP systems have to maintain that entire trail of all the data which is submitted, which was mostly unstructured data. The cost of storage, the cost of maintenance, everything was huge and voluminous. Now, how to handle that situation was something which was bothering us as an EGP system creator, and that's where we chanced upon this and started working on this idea. Now, the idea was that, can we create a network? Can we create a system using technologies like blockchain, which brings trust to all transactions, which can enable a vendor to, with ease, to upload his credentials without having the necessity to go and get it validated through various entities? And for procuring entities, can we have a system where the fact that the system says that this credential is authenticated and validated, it can trust that statement of the system and proceed without spending the amount of effort it was spending to validate these credentials? Just to give you one data and statistics, the type of effort a procuring entity had to spend. There were some procurements specifically in the healthcare sector where at least 25 people would be sitting continuously for a period of 1 month validating these documents to see whether these credentials are correct or not. Almost around 25 man-months of effort was spent in a specific procurement process itself, the procurement tender itself, which was huge for any organization. But that is the type of effort, that is the type of cost we are trying to reduce today using this technology called blockchain. This was one part of it. Vendor's credential was one part of it which we were focusing on. There was another thing which we thought that we can also solve here, was the bank guarantee system. Now, in India, thankfully, because of the measures taken by the Reserve Bank, the central bank of this country, we can use bank guarantees as a mode for bid security, or some places we call it as earnest money deposits. We can use bank guarantee for that purpose. Instead of putting the entire cash as a bid security, you can use also bank guarantee, which is quite, makes life convenience, enables liquidity with the vendors without forcing them to block their cash for submitting a bank guarantee. But unfortunately, when we went to e-procurement process, the capability to digitally accept bank guarantees was not there. Now, there were multiple reasons behind it, which probably will be, which I would not like to delve into that at this stage. But the fact was that there was no form in which bank guarantees could be digitally delivered to an EGP system, and there was no mechanism through which, in an authentic and validated mode, an EGP system can consume that bank guarantee and apply all the business logics which are supposed to be applied on top of it. So that was another thing which we saw was an essential problem statement for bank guarantee. So then we thought that while we are working on developing a blockchain system for vendor credential network, we thought that even this will be a very appropriate process which we can develop, which can help us seamlessly solve these various issues which we face and improve the quality of the EGP systems which we have in this country. And that's where we started working on this idea. Now, just to give you a brief of this vendor credentials network. Now, there were multiple issues which started coming up when we started working on this, this software, this piece of software. Now, the biggest question was that there are so many e-procurement systems in use in this, both in the country and globally. Now, every vendor is supposed to register at multiple places, at multiple EGP systems, so that it gets the ability to participate in the bids of those jurisdictions. Now, the problem was that if they are registered in different manner in different places, then how do you identify the uniqueness within these vendors? How do you ensure that they are able to log in as a single entity into this, converge all their credentials in a single bucket, in a single folio, and present it in any presentations, any places where they want to present? Now that was a big question which we had, and that's where we developed a very standardized deduplication process. And I'm hopeful that this deduplication process will, we have yet to see the light of the day, but I'm hopeful that this duplication process and the algorithm which we have developed will certainly stand good and will be able to resolve this critical issue. We did that exercise. Then we had another challenge was that while most of the EGP systems, most of the states, most of the governments have started adopting EGP systems, but those EGP systems are fairly at different levels of maturity when it comes to, in terms of the functions it has been able to digitize. Most of them at a point end with an award of contract and they don't go beyond that. Now, how do you know that? How do you ensure that that award of contract was converged into actions and there was a work experience, work was done and a work experience or work satisfaction certificate was also submitted? Because that's again one of the important element which is part of any bids which we see happening either in India or globally. But that was another issue which we had, and we worked on a methodology to solve it. So what we did is that we created, based upon blockchain's inherent strengths, we created a process driven by public key infrastructure, PKI, and cryptographic concepts. We created a mechanism through which we can fairly say that there are mechanisms today in this software which can help us solve most of these issues, be it converging the different IDs of different vendors into a single identity, which is validated, be it the process of integrating with various EGP systems, whether if it's with whatever type of maturity it may be in, whether it's a matured system, it can integrate with us through an API. If it's still fairly at a new stage of or other initial stages of development or modification, it can still integrate with us probably through interfaces which we are providing. So we were able to develop a model which could accommodate and various scenarios and helped us address different level of challenges. Now, while this software is under development, and we will talk about the status of the software, where we are right now and how we intend to roll it out going forward, there are certain things which are key for us to understand on the way we are trying to bring standardization in this entire process. We are saying that every vendor will be identified using a unique global ID. This global ID obviously can be deduplicated at different points of time. We have decentralized the activity of creating a single global ID by converging multiple global ID. That also has been created. We have created a process in which both the work experiences, the award of contracts, the bank guarantees, all these entities which go into blockchain can be validated, authenticated through a governance mechanism before it goes into blockchain. So one of the important elements which we know after having implemented blockchain in a couple of places is that blockchain is not just about putting data into it. It can again end up as a garbage in, garbage out, the concept which we talk so much when we start talking about computers. It can also do the same thing unless a governance mechanism is put in place surrounding the blockchain system. And that is where we have been spending time in creating those governance mechanisms. And I'm sure the type of processes we have defined will help us ensure that when data goes into blockchain, when content goes into blockchain, it will be authenticated through a process, and the consumers of that data will not be required to do any type of further validation post it has been put into blockchain and downloaded from blockchain. That's the type of system we have put in place. This is a core system. It's a system which will be formed as a network where every e-procurement entity can participate by connecting to this system, logging into this system. They can be a node of it. They can be a light node. They can be a full node also of this entire system, and they can connect with it. They can have a copy of the data with them. They can, as a full node, or they can just share the data through some common nodes which we can provide. So all type of flexibilities have been brought in, which we feel will enhance the efficiencies of verification which is required by any EGP system. So you don't need to say that your data is hosted at certain places. The data is with you. As an EGP system, you are part of that data and data host storing process. Now, the biggest question was, and I think most of you would have an answer for it, but I thought that it's important to reiterate it back. That what was the reason for choosing blockchain to have this system in place? Now, the biggest and the most important reason was the trust factor. The fact that blockchain brought in the amount of trust which is required, the necessity of trust was the biggest, I would say, the factor which made us decide in favor of blockchain as a technology. The fact that you are not hosting the data with you on a central place, there's no single owner of a data. The fact that data is decentralized across multiple places, every entity who participates has an equal share of the system. There is no single owner. Or entire EGP systems who are joining this network will be a part of this consortium, and that consortium will be driving the entire evolution of the system in future. Now, that fact brought in trust. In this system, EGP system directly communicates with it. It's not that it has an intermediary in form of a vendor to upload any information. It's the system which directly talks to the blockchain system, be it for identifying a vendor, be it for identifying the AOCs, be it for identifying the work experience certificates. It's the EGP system, and through them, the procuring entities who will be communicating with it. So when you get the data, you get an authentic data from the authentic sources, and that gets recorded into blockchain. So you don't see that a vendor gets to write into it. It's the EGP system which writes into it. And that's something which brings in trust. And when you download the data, when you download the dump of that information for your credential verification purposes, you directly download with the authenticity or with the assurance that this data is coming directly from the EGP system, which had the tender getting processed in it, which had the credential getting created in it. So you are getting the directly data from that. That was the biggest factor, winning factor for us, which made us lean towards blockchain in deciding the technology. Then came the fact that there was a collaborative working environment. The fact that we have developed in such a decentralized manner that there is no single owner. Like what Ram said, the biggest challenge here is that if you want, can you create a single monolithic system which every state, every government can adopt? The answer is simply no. After years of experience, experts like Ram and others have realized that it may not be possible. So any system which has to talk and communicate with each other has to work through a collaborative mode. And that's the reason when we realize that the fact that blockchain provides you an ability to collaborate without creating a centralized authority was something which made us think and choose blockchain. And obviously the auditability of it, the fact that it creates traces of transaction was something which made us choose blockchain. And if I may refer back to this, the fact that what we saw in the survey a short while ago, one of around 49% people selected that internet connection is something which is a big problem for them when it comes to adopting blockchain system. Now, one of the reasons why internet plays an important role or maybe a challenge is the voluminous amount of data which you are forced to exchange just because you are trying to upload a lot of data into the system. What this system is visioning is trying to solve that issue, at least at one level. I can't say that it will solve at various levels. You still will have to upload some documents. But the fact that these credentials, which today had to be converted from a materialized form into dematerialized form, then uploaded into the system, which would mean that almost around MBs, huge MBs of data would be uploaded into the system. Now, we are at least with the presence of the system, existence of the system, I'm confident that that amount of data which we had to deal with will get reduced significantly. We may have to see once we have experimented with this, we will have to obviously see what is the other better ways to resolve the other places where you have data getting exchanged, a voluminous amount of data getting exchanged. But once we start with this, I'm hopeful that blockchain as a technology can help us find some more solutions to those areas also where you are forced to upload a lot of data. And if that happens, probably that 49% I'm sure will go down significantly in terms of the challenges which people face in adopting EGP. So that's something I think is important goal for us when we are designing the system today. Now, as far as the status is concerned, we are at a stage where we have already commenced the process of registering EGP systems into this. They are getting connected with the system, and I'm hopeful that we will be able to commence the uploading of the AOCs shortly after the vendor registration starts, which also will start in due course. By December, we are hopeful of completing at least a couple of EGP systems, getting registered into the system, uploading their vendor data, and also uploading their associated AOCs. I'm hopeful of completing that exercise at least by December. And then a full-fledged rollout is due somewhere around Feb is what we are targeting, to have a full-fledged rollout where we will start rolling it out or connecting it or evangelizing this concept with multiple other EGP systems which are in use in the country of India, and bringing them at this platform. So that was what we had to talk. I had to talk, Ram, but I have a short video to show the way this system will function, and I have also simulation. We have simulated some of those scenarios. So if you're fine, we can move into that video before we start taking questions.
Okay, so I'll thank you, Saurav. I mean, so far in the last 10 years or so, we have always discussed like what percentage of procurement is handled via an EGP system, right? So that's how we evaluated the progress made by a country in adoption of EGP system. Yesterday, I remember somebody was explaining that Kyrgyz, almost all the procurement happens via the EGP system. So that's considered to be a measure of progress. Okay, so good progress. 100% means yes, you have done well. So from what Saurav just now said, the new measure of progress would be what percentage of experience certificates uploaded by the vendors, how much of that is coming automatically, okay, from authentic EGP systems, automatically, directly from the source. Right now, we are printing and uploading. The vendors are printing and uploading. So the idea is we need to stop that. It's inefficient. Okay, so maybe in 2025 we discuss and we say that a certain country, out of the bids submitted, out of the experiences submitted, at least 70% of the experiences are completely coming directly from the source. So these are authentic experiences. So that will bring up new possibilities. I remember, listening to the sustainable procurement, presentation. So maybe we can think like, maybe what percentage of the data, that would be the next level, I would think after this. What percentage of the data can we automatically process and then take it as an input to evaluate a suitability of a vendor, and so on and so forth. I mean, that's the way the world progresses. So now the video which Saurav talks about is that we had to do a video. There is no other way, because this is simulating the integration. So this is essentially a blockchain is just a repository of data, right? So this data is coming from various different sources, and how the concept works. It's a difficult concept, to get a hold of. Okay, so this video, we believe, will try and explain, because I'm sure many of you have questions like, what is the blockchain? What are we doing? How is this going to work? Okay, this video, we hope, will give you clarity about how this works. I mean, anything, I always believe, visualizing something, it helps. Okay, so that's exactly what Saurav and his team has done. And I request Saurav to give a demo of the video. He will be giving the voiceover. It's just the screenshots which would be there. So I'll stop at that. Saurav, please take over.
Thank you, Ram. Just before I start showing the video, just a couple of points to explain you on what is the context behind it, or the scenario which we are trying to simulate. So there are two public procurement portals of two different state governments which we are simulating here. One is the state of Karnataka in the country of India, and there's another state called Maharashtra, which is again in the country of India. They both are fairly matured states with high GDP, and also they have large procurements happening. The public procurement process is also quite mature. So that's the two places which we are trying to simulate here, two procurement portals. And then we will simulate a vendor which is in the business of both CCTV and biometric hardware provisioning. Now, this vendor would have supplied a CCTV to the public procurement portal to the state government of Karnataka, and the same vendor to the public procurement portal of Maharashtra would have supplied the same set of biometric devices to the government there. So that's what they would have done, that this single vendor would have done. The single vendor would have two different identities or two different registrations in these two different portals. What we will see is that both of this vendor, after having registered itself with the vendor credentials network VCN, which we are developing, the blockchain system, would upload using the EGP system. Get their GIDs created. Thereafter, the AOCs will be uploaded by Karnataka, the public procurement portal for the CCTV procurement, by Maharashtra public procurement portal for their biometric purchase. Those AOCs will be uploaded. Thereafter, this vendor would merge both its GIDs. It's the process of deduplication which I was talking about, so that the vendor in Karnataka, which is the same as the vendor in Maharashtra, the same physical entity, can claim both the AOCs and participate in a tender wherever it wants to, with using these two as the credentials. So that's the scenario which we are trying to simulate here right now at this stage. So I'll just start the video and would carry on doing some voiceover in between. And I saw some hands getting raised, but I'll request that if you can park your questions till the end of this video, and then we probably will try to answer all your queries. So what you are seeing right now is the Karnataka's public procurement portal. And what you are seeing is that there is an entity which is trying to register itself, log in into this portal and create its GID. So what you will see now is that the vendor will apply for GID into the, so this is the way. So these details, if you see the details, what is getting shown here for this vendor, the vendor's name is CCTV and biometric vendor. This vendor, whatever details which you're seeing here is something which has been pulled from the database of the EGP system of Karnataka. So in that way, we are not creating an additional process of someone having the pain to come in and register, validate itself, and we also taking a pain to validate that person again. What we are saying is that whatever validation has been done by the EGP system before registering that entity into their EGP portal, we will be riding on top of it. We will be taking that data. We will not unnecessarily force another set of validation for the vendor to perform with our portal, our system, the blockchain system. So we are just riding on top of the data which is being provided to us directly by the public procurement portal, with this assurance that they would have done their own authentication and due diligence of that vendor's identity. So now, if you see that these are the details which will be uploaded. Once you proceed, click at proceed. The data will be passed on to this data will be passed on to the blockchain system. And if you are seeing this data, this is the hash data which is coming from blockchain. The references of that vendor after having got created his identity inside blockchain, that references are what is passed back to the Karnataka Public Procurement Portal. What Karnataka Public Procurement Portal will do is that if you look at this GID, which is 0x56, this is a unique GID which is sent back as a registered identity of this vendor inside the blockchain. What is expected from the Karnataka Public Procurement Portal is to take this and seed it against the identity of that vendor in its own database, so that whenever any future conversation takes place where the data of this vendor, like the AOC or work experience certificate, is shared, this specific identity is mapped with that content and sent to the central blockchain system, which will thereafter validate and record it into its system. These transaction references can be thereafter used by the Karnataka portal to record and keep a record of the transaction with in its own database. Now, what you are seeing is the second stage. Now, having completed the registration through Karnataka, this vendor has again logged in now into Maharashtra Public Procurement Portal, because in the simplest form, this person has two different registrations in two different places, which is what happens in any case. You don't use or hitchhike on the registration done by some other public procurement portal in your own public procurement portal. You ask the vendor to register at your own place also as well. This is what has happened in this case, and Maharashtra is now uploading, Maharashtra portal is where this vendor has logged in. Now he is now creating his identity in this portal. This is the way this, if you see at the end, there's MH written the name of the vendor there. This is the way the vendor is identified. Now, again, the same process was followed, where you would see that the vendor's details were submitted. And once those details were submitted, an identity was created and a unique GID was given. Now, in this case, it is 0x57 is what this GID starts with, unlike what was there in which was 0x56. What's the identity through which the vendor was known as the Karnataka vendor. In this case, it is known as a Maharashtra vendor with this type of identity. Now, Maharashtra is expected to record this into the system. Now, this is where the contract is getting awarded. It's again a simulation in Karnataka portal. AOC, an award of contract is getting recorded for a tender which this same vendor would have won in this portal. Now, this is about CCTV. So this person, this vendor has supplied CCTV. Now, this award of contract is getting recorded. and subsequently will get published into blockchain with the reference of 0x56 as the GID associated, the vendor GID associated with this award of contract. Now this AOC is published inside blockchain. Now the vendor has logged in, and the moment vendor logs in, he is able to claim his the award which has been made, the award of contract. Now this award of contract also through an API got recorded inside the blockchain through an API link between the EGP system and the blockchain system. Now this is where in Maharashtra again we will see a contract will be awarded to the same vendor, but this time for biometrics. So this is a simulation where we are trying to segregate and make it a little more meaningful and understandable by creating two different types of awards which we are showing here. This is an award which is getting recorded, and this again will be published and uploaded against the GID which is recorded against this vendor in the as a Maharashtra's procuring entity 0x7 as the procuring as the GID of this vendor as recorded as Maharashtra's vendor inside the blockchain. And if you see, this is the biometric sensor tender which you can see in his dashboard, and this also gets published automatically through an API between Maharashtra and the blockchain system. Now if you see, if he logs in through Karnataka public procurement portal, he can see the AOC for CCTV. If he logs in through Maharashtra public procurement portal, he can see the AOC for the biometric. Now, if in a particular bid, if he has to supply both these credentials, he needs to connect both of them together. He needs to say through single identity, claim that and use that to submit as a bid, as a credential for a bid. But to do that, to converge both of them, now he is going to create a new process where after having logged in through the EGP system, his own login in the EGP system of Karnataka, the vendor will submit a request. He will do a search. He will say that this identity, this GID 0x F7, this identity is also my identity. It's a separate registration from Maharashtra portal. So please kindly merge them so that I can claim both the credentials as a single vendor's credential and use it in different portals. That's the request it is submitting now. Karnataka, he has logged in from Karnataka, is uploading his request now, and he will thereafter log in to Maharashtra. He himself will approve it. So this will help the EGP blockchain system to realize that yes, this both belongs to the same entity and link it together. Although we have there is another process in between where there will be an admin process where this will be validated by a third party through a certain process that we are not showing it for the sake of simplicity. So his request, he is submitting his request now. He will place the GID here, and then he will perform a search. Search will reveal the results. He can now see in the left-hand side his current Karnataka identity. Right-hand side, he can see the Maharashtra identity, and then he will click at the Apply Merge button. Now, the moment he has submitted his Apply Merge, the request has gone to a central to the blockchain, and from blockchain it will go to the Maharashtra login account, portal login account of this vendor. The vendor has to log in from his own portal, and then he will have to approve it. The moment he approves it, these two will get linked. So now he has to, he's in this process. If you see, he has logged in through Maharashtra EGP portal. Now he is going to submit his approve this linking between both these identities. The moment after assuming the identity of vendor registered with Maharashtra, he performs this action. The entire thing will linking will be completed.
Saurav, in the interest of time, can we just quickly close the video and take the questions?
Yeah, I think we can do that. I'll just quickly, because the last screen is a matter of interest. So now this is the last screen which I wanted to show you. This is where both these identities are placed in a single login now. And through this login, now he can submit his claims in multiple places, both the citations, credential in multiple bids wherever he wants to bid hereafter. So that is what we had, Ram. So over to you.
Okay, thank you. So I can see about 9 questions have come in, and so we will take one by one. So
you might actually,
Saurav, is how, yeah.
Just going to add, you might be able to consolidate some of those, while one is being addressed. So Saurabh, go ahead and take a look and see where you'd like to begin.
Okay. I think the first question was from how to access the information retrieved from blockchain as most updated. I think, let me quickly answer that. The fact that the information in blockchain is the latest updated information which comes from the EGP systems, and with the fact that a vendor will have the ability to choose which one he wants to show, I think probably we will be able to address this. Vendor also has that ability to select which one he wants to select, and we will also have the audit trail to understand which one is the latest one. As every department of India or the world are not digitized to share API for expense certificate or any registration certificate sharing, how this system can authenticate those documented submitted by vendor in bid after all human verification to traditional manner may require? Yeah, that's a very important question. So we, in fact, I tried answering it sometime in the initial phases of the presentation. The fact that the systems will be different levels of maturity, we have brought in PKI-based processes in place through which there will be a validation which will depend upon third-party validation also. For example, one of the validation we will be doing is through third-party APIs which are published by, let's say, the income tax portal in this country, through which we can validate at least the identity of the vendor. And thereafter, credential verification will depend upon a workflow which will involve even the procuring entities within the blockchain system. Blockchain holding data information from multiple EGP systems may require some sort of standardization of vendor registration process too. Absolutely, we agree with you, and that's something which we are working on to standardize the registration process. So if you see there's a set of standard data we will be following, we'll be capturing from different systems. And we will be working with EGP systems to ensure that that specific piece of information is always shared with us. What kind of high-level support the project needed to get started? I think one of the most important thing is an entity who is willing to sponsor it, an entity which has a problem statement, sees a solution in it, and wants to sponsor it. I think that's the most important support which we found here. How many Indian states are participating in the pilot now? Right now, it is these are 2 states are working on it. Do you see this pilot project crossing borders? Absolutely. I think somehow the questions are.
Yeah, I can take that question. So,
yes, please.
Yeah, in theory, yes, because we are not using any nation-specific PKI infrastructure. Hence, cross-border, across EGP systems, across boundaries, the design can definitely scale up. Okay, so the design is done in such a way that EGP systems across boundaries can operate together, and the bank guarantees also. I know that many countries have bank guarantees systems to take bank guarantees electronically, but within a country. But with this logic, the bank guarantees can be taken from across countries. For example, Bank of America can upload a bank guarantee in the blockchain, and it can be pulled from any EGP system across the world and verify that it is actually coming from Bank of America. So it does open up quite a number of possibilities.
Okay. Yeah. I think the next question is also for you, Ram.
Mm-hmm.
This is related to what Ramanathan just mentioned about uploading documents by vendors. Many procuring agencies still insist on submission of original documents in hard copies to authenticate the documents. Therefore, it's very interesting to hear from Saurabh about the blockchain system. So my question is, whenever blockchain system becomes operational, would it cover only the EGP system of Karnataka, or would it be replicated to the other Indian states? Do you think blockchain system will be able to ensure procuring agencies stop asking for hard copy?
Yeah, I mean, ideally, when this is implemented, people would stop asking because it is authentic. I mean, you can't get more authentic than this. So naturally, the inclination would be that, better to take it directly from the source instead of asking people to upload file attachments, printing them. Operationally, I'm sure most of you would have experienced it. People complain that, printers, papers, and storing these files, it's difficult. So definitely, implementing this, the vendors will love it because it's makes it easier to submit the bid. The government officers also will like it because it makes it easier for them to evaluate.
Okay, the last question, I think, Ram, if you can answer that, that's a very interesting question. Does this EGP only has contract management module, or does it have a module for tender management, advertising, evaluation, etc.?
No, it is only basically we are not into a transaction system. This particular system is taking the data. The transaction systems will remain as they are. So it's like a wrapper which is connecting the various EGP systems. Okay, so the modules are all will be part of the EGP system. So that's not getting disturbed at all. We are basically building on top of the existing EGP systems. I think that's something, and with minimal integration. So a lot of it, we are trying to handle it in the blockchain. So for an EGP system, they may not be that ready, okay, but still a simple API call, if they're able to do, they can participate in the blockchain network. That is the way it has been designed.
Yeah. I think, Ram, we are done with all the questions, unless any more question comes up. But I saw some people trying to raise hands. I don't know what will be the process to address their questions.
Okay, so any other questions are there? If there are no more questions, I'll pass on to Roger.
All right. Well, thank you both for this conversation and for addressing, I think you just did 10 questions in just a few minutes, so great job there. And thank you to all of our attendees who submitted your questions, shared your thoughts. Do please remain on the video. They're going to remove me for a moment. We just want to take a quick picture of the two of you. This is our way of capturing a group photo for each panel. So I will be removed from the screen in a moment, and then you will smile for a picture. All right, go ahead and smile. Great. All right, thank you again both. We appreciate your time, and we're now going to place a few poll questions here for you. So again, considering your own practices, considering your experience, please take a couple of minutes to respond to the questions that you will see prompted on your screen. So tell us here how you feel about your own understanding of blockchain technology. Very simple here, just, do you feel you have a good understanding? Yes or no. I suppose in the worst case scenario, you might say, what is blockchain? Hopefully that answer stays a little low based on this session, but if you joined us a little late today, perhaps you're still not sure, not familiar, but do let us know. It looks here for the most part, people are still struggling with their understanding of blockchain technology. And it looks like, and if that is the case, you are in the right place. So do connect with our speakers. They are in the panel, so you can send a message through the Zoom, through your Q&A and all of that. And you can also serve up a question in the chat. Looks like we have almost half the participants participating. So if you haven't yet submitted your response, please go ahead and do so now. Looks like we're pretty close at the moment. We're pretty much tied between yes and no's on the understanding of blockchain technology. This is definitely cutting edge, and this is something that I think over the next several years, we're all going to begin understanding a lot more. So go ahead, let's get a few more people submitting their responses. And then we'll go ahead and close this particular question. And I think we might have one more after this. There you go. Yeah, it looks like we're still pretty close between both yeses and nos in terms of understanding blockchain technology. All right, and the poll has ended. And our next question, I understood the benefits of using blockchain technology, or I understand the benefits of using blockchain technology in public procurement. So where do you stand on that particular question? Do you see the benefits? Do they make sense to you? Do they make sense in your organization and in the work that you do? And of course, if you feel that you need more information in order to really determine whether there are benefits that apply to your organization, you know, in terms of implementing blockchain technology, do let us know. Right now, it seems that one of the leading answers, or the leading answer, is more information is needed, that you want to learn more. So that's good for us to know. This is something that, you know, we can definitely share more information about. And as I've stated before, you're going to have access to a lot of the slides and presentations, so you will have an opportunity to review some of that information. Looks like we've just wrapped up this particular poll, and it looks like most people feel that they need more information. So thank you so much for that feedback. That does help us think about how we can design future programming. And I think this is an area that we're definitely going to explore a lot more. So thank you again for your participation there.